Welcome to the 19th season of the Nitwits, a weekly roundtable discussion on the Nittany Lions and the only show of its kind in the state. Our Nitwits panel features Neil Riddell of the Altoona Mirror and Mark Brennan of FightOnState.com. Between them, they've covered Penn State for 70 years. The Nitwits are hosted by WTAJ Sports Director Alex Colley, and each week we welcome a former Nittany Lion as our special guest analyst. The Nitwits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, an independent firm and a firm foundation for your financial future. By Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Courtesy Motor Sales of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona, just ask rental, buy what you want, rent what you need. By The Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By Health South, your rehab choice. Health South Altoona, ask for us by name. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, uniform, and mat rentals. By Reed and Salaney Orthodontics, Dr. Reed and Salaney provide orthodontics for children and adults. By W.S. Lee & Sons, your local food distributor specializing in distributing a full line of food service products to restaurants, schools, and institutions throughout central Pennsylvania. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday.
Welcome to the Big Ten Championship edition of the Nitwits. We're all fresh off the road from Indianapolis, and to talk about the Lions' 38-31 win, we have Neil Riddell, the Altoona Mirror, Mark Brennan, FightOnState.com. I'm your host, Alex Colley, and we need an expert on the Nittany Lions and Rose Bowls, and Keith Collin is both, so thank you for joining us.
Hey, good to be here again.
It's a bonus show. We got a bonus-sized human being to do the show.
This is true.
Well, as I alluded, PSU heading to Pasadena on the outside looking in of the college football playoffs. Are we surprised? Was this expected? Causing more confusion?
I think as the day built this morning and last night, that some of the hopes were at least raised by the way Penn State won this game. But there was adequate warning from the Brain Trust, this committee, and the system still lacks, but I don't think it was a total shock.
I would say this much, that with respect to everything we saw yesterday, I thought it was really important that Penn State passed Michigan. I really did. Because, Goon and I were talking about it driving down, and the way Delaney was basically stumping for Michigan on game day on Saturday, I thought it was really an embarrassment to the league. Just didn't see any reason he should be doing that. I think Ohio State belongs in there. One loss, what they've done on the road. You could take some issue with Washington. But to me, the fact, and Penn State fans may not look at it that way, but I thought they at least did the right thing by jumping Penn State over Michigan. Even though Michigan won earlier in the year, clearly the team that's playing better football right now is Penn State.
I mean, I think you can make a case that other than Alabama, Penn State's playing as good as anyone right now, and maybe could beat anyone right now.
I don't know about you guys. I mean, I called this in August. I mean, we knew this was going to happen, right? Sitting here in December talking about the owner of the Rose Bowl. So I'm with Mark. I mean, I could not believe that what Delaney was like yesterday on game day. I could not believe it. Just disappointed in him, but it's par for the course, in my opinion. I mean, as I said to Mark, I said, we've always felt that way about him, and now he's actually on video talking about it and, like, stumping for Michigan. But the way the Final Four ended up is, I understood it. I mean, I went into that weekend saying that if Washington and Clemson win, they deserve to go. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, Ohio State deserves to go. They have one loss. We have two. Bottom line. So I'm not upset. Would have loved to have been in the Final Four, but, hey, the Rose Bowl is a pretty nice consolation prize.
Well, and the fact that we're even talking about this now, I mean, at the beginning of the year, people would have taken the Outback Bowl. People would have really,
no doubt.
And so for that team to overachieve the way it did, and looking forward, you could still see where this team could still get better. It's going to have its opportunities to get to that next level. The thing about the Rose Bowl, listen, from a fan perspective, and book your trips at FightOnState.com, by the way. I'm going to throw that in there. But no, listen, from a fan perspective, Rose Bowl is a great place to go. If you're a fan trying to go and watch those playoff games, and do they win one? Do you wait to try to go to the championship game? That makes it a lot more dicey. So from a fan perspective, I think Penn State fans are really going to enjoy this.
Well, I thought about that before. I mean, you look at our fan base, had to travel to Indianapolis last week. Okay, now you're going to go out to the Fiesta Bowl or the
Peach Bowl.
Probably
Peach
would
Bowl
have
of
been
Atlanta.
It would have been Atlanta.
And then to the final game. It's like,
What do you
it's
pick to
a
do?
lot of money. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
lot of money people are putting out for all these championship games.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons that when people talk about making it a field of 8, that you would have to have home field for the first round. And I'm not saying that would be preferable, because then I think you're really going to start dipping into a conversation, I mean, how much longer do you really want the season to end? You're a former player. I mean, some of these kids are going to play 16 games.
Well, I'm also a 1994 guy. I mean, I know exactly what it's like. How these kids are feeling right now, and it's you did everything in your power. I mean, obviously losing the 2 games, but it's a letdown for them. But they'll get over it real quick. And I do personally believe that the BCS was created after the '94 fiasco, and I think we're going to be the forerunner. I mean, the people bearing the torch, because when we go to 8 or 16.
Yeah, you talk about Michigan, and clearly there was a case in the last week that was being built, to the committee and whatnot. And you see it, I mean, it's 22 years that Penn State's been, 23 years they've been in the Big Ten. And the All-Star teams, we're going to get this a little bit later, were announced last week. And it still doesn't seem like Penn State really has that much of a groundswell of support when it comes to whether the coaches. I think they even get a better shake with the media.
You know who Penn State has support from? It's fans. I mean, seriously, the way that they showed up in Indianapolis, when you think that that's a drive for a lot of Wisconsin fans, and I get that Wisconsin had been there, but everything this program's gone through, I mean, the way that they showed up in droves, and we'll talk about the All-Star stuff later, but I was blown away by that. I really was. I mean, they were there at game day. They were clearly the prevalent, fan base in the stadium. They were clearly prevalent. So to me, you want to look at maybe people are maybe a little disappointed about not getting in the playoff. There were a lot of positives coming out of this weekend.
I mean, it's a really tough turnaround with the tickets. I mean, it looked like Penn State could have sold more tickets. They sold most of their tickets almost immediately.
Yeah.
But and there were still plenty of empty seats.
There's a lot of people booing, which was pretty nice at the end of that game.
One person.
Oh.
Well, Penn State will see USC, and we're going to delve more into this bowl preview during our Nitwits preview show. But on first glance, what's your reaction to the Lions taking on the Trojans?
Well, I mean, you have the 2 hottest teams probably, outside of Alabama, but 2 super hot teams. Another team that they started 1-3 and have been able to overcome. They got this kid in there playing quarterback, doing a great job. And the thing I love about it is now Penn State has a chance to prove the committee wrong. This is a team that really handled Washington very easily at Washington. So listen, Penn State fans, and listen, Penn State football team, go out and take care of business against this team. Not going to be easy. This is a really good team. If you go out and take care of business, you're going to send a message that the committee probably got it wrong.
What I like about it is a marquee matchup with USC. Again, Penn State, as it's been so often, will be an underdog. But the thing that I like is, and this is why it was so important to finish this and beat Wisconsin, a quality program, because the consolation prize really fell off. And I'm not trying to sound like an elitist Penn State fan, but they were going to end up playing, as Wisconsin is, Western Michigan in the Cotton Bowl. And I just don't think, I think a lot of other venues and SEC type or even ACC opponents would have suited and been more of an excitable opportunity. So I'm really glad that they get USC in the Rose Bowl.
I said earlier, it's a first world problem having to go play the Rose Bowl. I mean, this is a real issue we have here. I'm looking for a little bit of revenge for that 08-09 beatdown they gave us out there. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's a home game for USC. It's always driven me crazy that it's their stadium, well, not their stadium, but it's their town. So it should give our guys a little bit of fuel to their fire, in my opinion. But going into their place, and as Mark said, with our fans traveling, and it'll be 60-40 Penn State at their home field. It was just great.
All right, we're going to take our first break, but when we return, we're going to revisit Penn State's big win over Wisconsin. The Nitwits will be right back.
The Nitwits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, an independent firm and a firm foundation for your financial future. By Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Courtesy Motor Sales of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona. Just ask rental, buy what you want, rent what you need.
I'm Jesse James from your Nittany Lions, and you're watching the Nitwits.
Well, it was a story we've seen before, Penn State trailing at the half, but their adjustments proved to be the difference maker in the second. So what were your biggest takeaways from the Big Ten championship game?
Well, this team, I think, has been the most resilient. I mean, we've been fortunate to be watching a lot of Penn State teams. Of course, Keith, one of the greatest teams, if not the greatest offense that we've seen. But the resiliency, the improvement that this team has shown, I think, has been really second to none. And it all manifested again in the same type of template that it has all year.
Yeah, I mean, you have to give the defense all sorts of credit, and you have to give Joe Moorhead all sorts of credit. But I'll tell you what, Trace McSorley, wow. It's, you know, every time you think that this guy has blown your mind, he just comes through and absolutely does it again. At the beginning of that game, he was getting hit, you know, didn't look quite right, and, you know, by the end of the game, he was just absolutely destroying a defense that was very good. I mean, they were giving everybody fits this year. I'll tell you what, I mean, again, you know, I know we'll talk about the All-Star thing, but I can't believe there's anybody playing better than this kid at quarterback in the nation. Not just in the Big Ten. I don't think anybody's playing better than this kid in the nation at quarterback right now.
Well, the Heisman votes are due tomorrow, and I'm seriously considering having him on my ballot somewhere. I mean, it's not a slam dunk year where there's a consensus pick, and I think he deserves some level of consideration.
Yeah, we're watching these highlights right now. Going into the game, Wisconsin, they hung their hat on. They didn't allow big plays. I mean, how many big plays did Penn State have last night? I mean, unbelievable what they were doing. And Mark's right. I mean, they wore Wisconsin out, wore them out.
Well, at one point, he was 9 for 9 for like 250 yards during one stretch.
And he had like 2 or 3 drops in that game, too. I mean, they tried to go to Irvin Charles a couple times, and he dropped a couple balls. And listen, that's going to happen in the course of a game. But that, you know, to me, just unbelievable. And the other thing, again, a lot of people playing well across the board, but their receivers, I'll tell you, they had a great group here in the mid 90s, but they weren't as big and they weren't as talented. This group, I think, is right there with that. I'm sorry, in the mid 2000s. This group is right there with the mid 90s group that Goon played with. You know, I don't know that they have anybody as good as Ingram, but overall, you think about Ingram, Freddie Scott, Juravicius.
They were pretty talented.
But this group is pretty talented too. I think across
Keith,
the board.
I'm siding with you.
I got you.
You add in Gesicki in that Kyle Brady role. I'm just saying that this is the best across the board we've seen since Goon's days.
Yep. Well, you also had Butler, Williams, and Norwood.
Yeah, I meant that. I said the mid-90s. I meant the mid-2000s for the little guys.
You know what I liked about the receiver crew is Deshaun Hamilton, who had his struggles early. I thought he played his best game. Made some really tough catches. He had 8 for like 120 yards. It was his first 100-yard game in 2 years. And Blacknall is really coming into his own. I mean, that's a real physical receiver.
Well, everybody was talking about the linebackers being out early in the year, and I know that you had Tompkins playing well, but he's not the kind of deep threat. I mean, he is a deep threat, but clearly Blacknall, I mean, it's almost like they get into the red zone and they can't find him because he's only getting open 40 yards downfield, but just a great all-around. And we do have to go back to the defense. The way they pick it up and use their depth to establish things in the second half, just amazing.
Well, I mean, underappreciated aspect of the receivers that are blocking.
Yeah.
When you watch any of these big runs, I mean, these guys they're killing people downfield. I mean, they're running down there trying to get 1, 2, 3 different guys blocked, and great job by them. Great job by all the coaches, top to bottom. Strength staff having in there. I mean, like I said, we wore Wisconsin out. Wisconsin's this big burly team from the Big Ten, and we went out there. We're fresh in the fourth quarter, running circles around them out there. So it was awesome. I mean, from top to bottom, probably one of the best jobs I've ever seen coaching at Penn State.
Yes, absolutely. It was like a polar opposite teams. You have Penn State that just really does want to spread out. God forbid we'll take a snap under center, and I give all the credit to Joe Moorhead. He's doing it his way, and he's obviously winning. And And where he winds up, he's going to be a head coach somewhere. But Wisconsin's lined up with 2 tight ends and 2 fullbacks and no wideouts.
Yeah, well, it was a classic. Yeah, I mean, that's what made it a good matchup. I mean, it was a classic, the power team versus more of a spread team. But at the end of the day, listen, Penn State was physical enough. I mean, think about the offensive line. How many times have we seen them really struggle early in the game? And then somehow, and I think it's a combination of the guys just getting more confident and then the coaching staff adjusting the game plan and McSorley escaping people. I mean, it's all kind of, you could speak to it Goon better than anybody here.
Amazing how McSorley plays the game. I mean, I say it all the time. I mean, these guys they're dying to block for this kid. I mean, he's making all the right plays, all the right, moves on offense, running the ball, passing the ball. But I mean, I always say it. I say it on my radio show, and when he gets hit and the offensive line are running to pick him up, you could tell that they're fighting for him, and the whole team is doing that for him.
And you're talking about 2 redshirt freshmen and a true freshman on that line. We talk about the coaching job and the team, and to me, this team has been so entertaining to cover and for the fans and for just to watch. And the '94 team was tremendously talented too. And I mean, it was
good
almost
looking.
And
good looking.
Exactly.
Most of them.
But this team it's just been so unexpected that I think there's a different type of entertainment to each team.
Well, it might be similar to the '93 team, right? I mean, that's not everybody was thinking.
Yeah.
And you guys came out with a bunch of young guys and established yourself.
And we, Coach Limegrover deserves a lot of credit for what happened there. I mean, we had, some problems with the offensive line with injuries early and guys not being ready to play physically. But, I mean, what he has done, I mean, I know Coach Moorhead deserves a lot of credit, but I think Limegrover deserves a whole lot of credit for that.
All right, well, by halftime, it seemed like there would be a lot of questions about the Nittany Lions, and Neil's favorite topic, wet blankets area. So when we return, we're going to talk concerns and what needs to be cleaned up before the Rose Bowl. Nitwits, we'll be right back.
The Nitwits are brought to you by the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By Health South, your rehab choice. Health South Altoona, ask for us by name. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, uniform, and mat rentals. By Reed and Selaney Orthodontics. Dr. Reed and Selaney provide orthodontics for children and adults.
We now return to the Nitwits. A roundtable discussion of Penn State football.
Welcome back to the Nitwits. We've talked about what we liked from Penn State's big win in the Big Ten championship game, but what were some of the red flags?
Well, they overcame them all, really. So I don't.
It's hard.
I did not bring an
Even
agenda
Mr.
here
Wet
of
Blanket.
things to complain about. So I don't want to be that pinned. But I was a little curious. I was curious about the 4th and 2 call in the first half. They were fortunate to be able to overcome that. Usually something like that happens. I thought they panicked a little bit. You hadn't seen that from this staff. And I mean, you look at these numbers. I mean, Penn State was 3 for 10 on 3rd down, 0 for 3 on 4th down, and then makes that play and still wins, still overcomes.
Yeah, I think just the first half kind of doldrums. Sooner or later, we thought that was going to be, I mean, I did at least. I thought once they fell behind, 28-7, that was going to be the instance where it finally caught up to them again after the Pitt game. But listen, you have to give them credit for storming back and doing what they do. I will say this, though. I do think that Wisconsin, they started throwing the ball a little bit. They missed some tackles. Wisconsin allowed them just enough to get back into that game late in the first half. We're talking off air a little bit. And that was all Penn State needed to sneak through there. So, yeah, there were some negatives, but overall, you have to give big positives.
Mark's right. I mean, it's going to catch up to them, and it will catch up to them if they start slow in this bowl game like they did this past week. I mean, as they've done every week in the past 9 weeks. It's a scary thing doing that because, you play with fire, you're going to get burned eventually. So everything worked out well last night. Everything was all peachy keen in the game and all that. But, putting yourself in that position, it's not easy. But, man, It was dramatic. It was fun.
You have to love Franklin's line, though, how he said, well, you know, they got the note from the office, the league office, that they wanted it to be an exciting game, so they decided to fall behind a little bit. I thought it was a pretty cool line from him.
Well, he really turned it around. I think he handled himself in the wake of some inevitable disappointment or letdown on the preliminary not being included. He really has set such a positive tone, particularly publicly, for the players to follow, because we've seen it before when they haven't been totally satisfied with their bowl fate. Sometimes there have been grief counseling involved. I think that really has handled that.
He's been great with it all year.
Yeah.
You alluded to it earlier, postseason awards.
Yeah.
Some big names on the list, some left off the list.
Well, I thought Franklin should have been the coach of the year, number one. He was by the media, but he wasn't by the coaches, which maybe they see him as a little bit more threat to their domain.
Let me understand this correctly. The coaches pick, there are 3 teams, first, second, third team. The coaches have 2 Penn State offensive players on 3 teams.
Yeah.
It's 33 guys, if I'm right. Is that right? 11 times 3? So you have McSorley was second team, and you have Saquon Barkley, who was offensive player of the year. And yet you don't have the coach of the year coaching that offense, which is 3rd in the league in scoring. If there isn't a beef here against Franklin, I mean, that to me, and you know what's going to happen? Franklin's going to end up winning at least one of these National Coach of the Year awards, and these other Big Ten coaches are going to look like a bunch of goofballs for not giving him the award. And that's not to say Paul Chryst didn't do a great job. He did. And Urban Meyer did a great job. Listen, everybody's forgetting how young that team is. But this year, given what Penn State's
got the field goal off in time.
But the point being, this year, given what Penn State's been up against the last few years, I can't see how anybody would give that award to anybody other than Franklin.
Turning to the players, I don't know how you leave Jasicki off all 3 teams.
And that was the coaches. The media had him second team. I mean, you scratch your head and you wonder if you honestly have to wonder if there's an agenda or if these guys just watch so little football that they don't know. I don't know, but something clearly was going on there.
Of course, Moorhead left off the Broyles finalists too. So lots to talk about more.
Guy from Pitt.
That's right.
Yeah.
Canada
and he also did a good job.
So one place where head-to-head apparently does matter. Well, we're going to take our final timeout, but when the Nitwits return, we're going to take a look at the Nitwit of the Year standings. It's close. We'll be right back.
The Nitwits are brought to you by W.S. Lee & Sons, your local food distributor specializing in distributing a full line of food service products to restaurants, schools, and institutions throughout central Pennsylvania. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday.
All right, well, welcome back. The Nitwit of the Year standings, it's a close race, and once again, the guests getting the ball after last week.
Yeah, Mike representing the chair. They're
Keith
still
ever
not in
gets one of
front.
these. I have a scheme to take Neil down for the last game, so I think I'm going to have some fun with that.
No, you better hurry.
All right, well, thank you for watching, and stay tuned. We're going to have a bowl pregame special coming up in the next few weeks. Stay tuned. We'll have more on that. Thank you for joining us. Have a good one.
The Nitwits have been brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, an independent firm and a firm foundation for your financial future. By Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Courtesy Motor Sales of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona, just ask rental, buy what you want, rent what you need. By The Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By Health South, your rehab choice. Health South Altoona, ask for us by name. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, uniform, and mat rentals. By Reed and Solani Orthodontics, Dr. Reed and Solani provide orthodontics for children and adults. By W.S. Lee & Sons, your local food distributor specializing in distributing a full line of food service products to restaurants, schools, and institutions throughout central Pennsylvania. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.